Hey guys, how's it going? Hope you're doing well. My name is Crown, and today I'm going to read you some very interesting stories that I hope that you're gonna love. And now, without further ado, let's go! I have 3 nieces and a nephew I was quite close to. They frequently spent weekends and every special occasion was us in our home. As of writing this, I've not seen them for nearly a year. My sister-in-law and I were both employed as caregivers to elderly homebound individuals. Because of our job experience, we were taking turns assisting our grandfather-in-law with dementia. In March, he received a credit card statement with over $21,000 in transactions. When confronted with a bill, sister-in-law admitted she had taken and used the credit card. On my next visit to assist him, I drove him to the sheriff's office to file criminal charges despite sister-in-law's promises to pay off the debt with the bank. Those charges are still pending. Sister-in-law was fired and blacklisted from working with elderly people and has cried that this should be punishment enough. Once charges were filed, the children were no longer allowed to spend any time with me, my husband, or our sons. She's run through several jobs and was recently fired from another one for, you guessed it, stealing. Just before Halloween, I switched jobs and noticed my social security card was missing. I then received a new credit card in the mail that I had not applied for. Sister-in-law currently resides at my previous address as we gave her the house where she currently lives. I often receive credit card offers in the mail and they have been sent to that address on numerous occasions. I was immediately suspicious, but with nothing to go on, I let it go. On November 21, I received a credit alert that I had opened a PayPal credit account and paid another PayPal user $250. I contacted the creditor as well as local law enforcement. Sister-in-law is adamant she's had nothing to do with this. I'm still waiting on paperwork from the bank to verify her contact information on the application. She dug in her heels and announced that the children are not allowed to spend any time with us for Christmas unless all charges against her are dropped. So this will be the first Christmas my youngest son hasn't spent with his cousins. He's heartbroken and I'm just pissed. I don't understand how she musters the audacity. Editing to answer some questions because this blew up. She's my husband's brother's wife. She turned 30 this year. Her kids are 11, 7, 4 and 2. My boys are 18 and 10. I froze my credits after I received the first credit card. Not 100% sure how the transaction still went through. My thought is that she had all the necessary information and could easily have unfrozen it. It's taken so long to nail down charges because attorneys are nitpicking over which charges she spent versus which were legitimate. Aside from bills, some purchases she made were $800 tickets to a Backstreet Boys concert, a $700 Venmo to her BFF, a $1,600 boudoir photo shoot, $600 at Victoria's Secret, $450 in deliveries from her favorite local Mexican restaurant, $400 ATV excursion in Cozumel, Mexico on a cruise her husband paid for, and $650 from a website that sells designer scrubs. Nothing was purchased for her kids. Update: at a court hearing this past week, sister-in-law was sentenced to serve 20 days in jail, suspended until after the first of the year, and must pay $8,000 in restitution. My father is a Canadian Satan. Growing up with him was less than fun, and I can assure you, based on witnessing it, he was a less than fun husband. I go on about what a piece of crap my father is, but instead I'll quote a judge. "You're the most despicable human I've ever had in my courtroom." And that's coming from a family court judge. I read this winning endorsement of my dad's personality in the court documents I acquired related to his divorce with my mom. The same place I discovered the mess he had engaged in to steal from my mom. It's also where I found the information I needed to get one over on him so severely he's going to disinherit me. A frame of reference about my father is that he is a pathological narcissist and behaves exactly how those people are compelled to act. They aren't generous to people, and punching them in the wallet is like a slap shot to the taint from Gretzky. He's kind of like Donkey from Shrek, but also Joseph Stalin, a monstrous jerk. About 10 months ago when our tale began, I was going through some stuff. Stuff being a whole lot of PTSD related to both my dad's abuse and my job as a paramedic. He did a ton that affected me deeply. Things that I needed to move past, along with all that other razzmatazz from 15 years of EMS. In trying to move past and work through everything, I quit drinking, started turning my untreated PTSD into treated PTSD, and thinking having my dad involved might help me and our relationship. Well, I seriously misjudged that one, so you'll probably be unsurprised to hear that the conversation went swimmingly. I'll spare you the lurid detail, but when I approached the subject with him, our back and forth degenerated into visceral hate, with him screaming at me that I'm a failed paramedic, liar, and a piece of crap alcoholic. While I have a certain pride about my job, I have more pride in my 14 months of sobriety. So hearing this from my old man might have caused me to behave a bit psychotically. I got right pissed off at him and decided to dig up every bit of dirt I could, see what kind of man he actually is and has been. When it was convenient, I hopped in the mystery machine before taking a trip to the courthouse to unleash my inner gumshoe. Everything is public record, so I bought copies before retiring to my easy chair to read, plot, and pet my white long-haired cat. For good measure, I obtained a file of divorce documents from my mother. Soon enough, I hit upon a line of inquiry worth following up on. It seems that during the final settlement of my parents' divorce 2002, my mother was awarded 1/3 of my father's employment pension. She was a stay-at-home mother and could not earn one herself, so it was given to her by a judge. Mighty strange, because my father, as he brags, took a nearly full pension and retired a bit early. No way that jerk was living the last 10 years after retiring early on a 2/3 pension. He isn't constantly whining about it. So I asked my mother if she was collecting a pension from his job or had cashed out the value, 100k plus at the time, 20 years ago, and no to both questions. Well, that's interesting. I wonder if that's collectible and what 20 years of compound interest from a pension fund makes it worse. Well, I did eventually find out, along with the fact that my dear old dads have been collecting my mother's portion for 10 years, in hilariously open violation of a legal order from a judge. Why didn't my mother pursue this sooner? A combination of being unable to afford a lawyer, being his victim for 20 years, and pessimism after so much of his continued dodging obligation to the order. She just quit. There is effectively no statute of limitations he could hide behind because of the wording of the settlement. Insofar as I could tell, I had him dead to rights, and my mother would be collecting. It would be a slam dunk. I just needed to hire a lawyer to help me, so I set out to find the most unbalanced, bloodthirsty psychotic who passed the bar exam. The misanthropic sociopath I hired for legal counsel suggested we send a demand letter to the pension office to try and remedy it before filing what would undoubtedly be an easy win for him. I agreed in spirit and instead phoned up the pension office and got put through the woman managing my father's file. Well, she was a delight, and it was a trivial matter for me to get her to loathe my dad. We talked for 45 minutes, and I swear if you've given me another hour, I could have convinced her to suicide bomb his house. In all our conversations about life, families, and relationships, we got down to some things of note. Since I could show her correspondence her office had sent to my father, CC'd my mom on, some years ago and ongoing for 5 consecutive years, trying to resolve this matter which he had ignored, she was more than willing to start the process of remedy immediately. All cooperation from this lady and her office was a matter of merely providing documentation. With my lawyer on retainer, this office was beyond asking my father to comply. They complied for him. About 2 months since I last spoke to my father, and he now had no idea his pension was about to take a serious hit. Below, I am going to break down how big a turd I put into his bowl of ice cream. My mother's portion was made whole and adjusted to reflect that her portion was brought to maturity and beyond, so his early retirement doesn't affect her fund. So he loses 10 years of valuation to her. He also retires 3 years early, which knocks him down now to 17 years of pension valuation, not 27. If you've forgotten, my dad had been collecting my mom's money and was overpaid by 30k per year for the last 10 years. Like I said, mom was made whole. So the pension company is going to claw back that overpayment from the base valuation of his current pension fund. I am not exactly sure what that does to the number, but it effectively nerfs my old man's private retirement fund. He's got a government old age pension that he took early too. Whoops. My dad did some awful crap to me, but I only had to suffer 17 years of him. My mom still has a high score at 20. As much as I did this for spite and malicious glee, I did do it to give my mom a chance at a proper retirement. My mother started collecting her pension about 3 months after I contacted the pension office, and to celebrate she bought tickets to New Zealand for the family for holidays, so we can see our relatives. I was able to get most of my retainer from the lawyer back, and to celebrate I went online to order a glitter bomb. I was able to ship it to my old man anonymously from another country. I heard through my sister he opened it up in his stupid red Miata. Ha ha ha. He'll never get rid of it. I read another story on here which inspired me to write this, but mine is nowhere near as interesting, unfortunately. During my first year of university, I shared a house with one other girl and 3 boys. The other girl kept to herself mainly. I was the only one who had a job and therefore that really bought anything with me other than clothes and a laptop. I decided to be nice and put my TV, quite a decent sized one, I had saved up for a while in that front room so everybody could watch it, as I could always just use my laptop when I was in my bedroom. One of the boys brought a PlayStation with him and connected it to the TV, which I had absolutely no problem with. For the first couple of months everything was fine and they shared using the TV really well. I would generally watch an hour or 2 the days I wasn't working, and they used it most of the other time. After a while, every time I wanted to watch a program, I used to get, "There are 3 of us and 1 of you. Just go and watch it in your bedroom so we can play FIFA." For a lot of programs I have no problem watching on my laptop, but there are certain things that are really better to watch on a real TV, and I did point out politely that the television did belong to me and I was only wanting it for an hour. I would also give them plenty of notice when I wanted to watch a program. Eventually I just had enough and snapped. I came down to watch something after I told them the previous day I wanted to watch it, and they told me to go and watch it in my bedroom. So I did exactly that. I unplugged the TV from and disconnected their PlayStation and carried it up to my bedroom. I set it up just in time to watch my program, which I had to turn up extra loud to drown out their moaning and banging on my door. The only annoying thing is the next day one of them had called the bank of mommy and daddy, who apparently agreed with them that I was awful and had ordered a new TV for them, so they only really went with that for a week or so until it arrived. It was a bit smaller too. I, male 39, am on a Christmas holiday with wife's female 36 family. I have a dairy allergy, which means I can't eat butter, milk, yogurt or cheese. Everyone in the family knows this, especially my mother-in-law, who is in charge of cooking. First 2 nights for dinner we had raclette. If you don't know what that is, it's basically you chop up your own vegetables and fry them on a little stand, then you add cheese, which you then grill on the same stand. Raclette is literally just fried chopped vegetables and potatoes unless you have a cheese. And furthermore, it takes about an hour to grill enough to feel full. Okay though, I made it through that. Just had extra nuts and chocolate. So on day 3 we were to have a more substantial meal with mashed potato. Except mother-in-law forgot about me and put butter and milk in. And instead of telling me and saying sorry, assigned this guy, wife's sister's partner, who is known as extremely unreliable, depressed, who also happened to be very ill and not someone you'd want making your food at all, to make a dairy-free mash. He boiled some potatoes and blended them, making a watery potato-only soup consistency broth, and this was served on a table in a saucepan with the rest of the meal that I could have. I asked for a bowl and poured out a portion of the potatoes and then offered it round to others. No one wanted any, including the guy who made it, and this was a point in which I just had enough, and I got seriously angry. Well, inside. So I made an excuse about having promised to call my mom and picked up the remaining meal and bowl of watery potatoes. I left to another room where I called my mom and I poured it down the toilet and just ate bread until I was full. Wife came in absolutely fuming, telling me I'd hurt the guy's feelings and that it was so rude to leave the dinner table. I laid my cards on the table. Why have I not been thought of for every single meal? I'm never asked what I want, and it's not hard to make things dairy-free or to buy some extra stuff and so on. Wife says I should just suck it up and that the guy made an effort, and I replied that he is not a kid. If I made something that's atrocious, I would not expect anyone to eat it like he was a child whose feelings I shouldn't hurt. I'm now in the doghouse. Apparently no one bought my need to call my mom story. Am I the jerk here? Edit, I forgot to mention that they all barely speak English, as we are in France. My wife is half French. This goes some of the way perhaps to me not being involved in meal discussions. It's not really possible for me to cook my own food in this situation. It's hard to explain, but mother-in-law and that side of the family are the cooks. We don't really get input. We offered to help and are always turned down. Mother-in-law has known me for 5 years, and she knows about my intolerance. She's just forgetting me, which is okay, it happens. And I basically got mad because they served me something basically inedible. And then they acted like nothing was wrong, rather than just saying sorry and getting me bread. A lot of people want to know what else was there. We had a portion of fried meat and there was a saucepan of cabbage, no bread. So without the potatoes, the meal was just meat and cabbage. Also, it's a cow's milk intolerance, meaning lactate doesn't work. Lots of people are still saying I should fix my own meals or go to the shops and get my own supplies. This is not really a polite thing in this situation, otherwise, I would 100% do that. You have to trust me on this one that it was not an option and that more offense would be caused if I offered to do that. And now some comments on a post. Someone saying, "You're not the jerk. I'm a fiend for gluten and dairy, but I was making a holiday feast this year with a friend who can't eat either. Really, it wasn't that hard to skip making gluten things and not use any butter. I just made smashed potatoes instead of mashed. Get some small potatoes, boil until soft, smash on a baking sheet with olive oil and bake until crispy. Because they sounded tasty and were something that worked for everyone. I think part of being a good host is making sure everyone is really included in the meal." Another commenter adds, "Everyone's a jerk. The French bit is key to your story. Cooking without dairy is pretty unheard of in traditional French cooking. I am wondering why you didn't make your own smashed potato puree, instead of letting someone else make you some weird soup. Bonding over food, not just eating but talking of the next meals. Food prep and meal tidy up is a key component of French culture. So, although it's not okay to buy your own separate meals to cook and eat when you're being hosted, you'll be the golden son-in-law to accompany during grocery shopping and point out alternatives, or sneak into the kitchen to help prep and brainstorm ideas or ensure a portion is kept before adding the cream and so on. Yes, my point of view comes from being dairy intolerant and French. It's been 2 years, my mom still asks at every meal if I want cheese during the cheese course. I help with meal prep when I'm passing remind her that the Navarin will be delicious, but with what cream? And she'll remember. And I'll say, "Oh, no worries, you haven't added it yet. We can put a small portion aside, then I'll have it cream-free." "Oh, you have coconut cream?" "Yes, that could work." Dairy is super hard for French home cooks over 30. Like really hard to remember to avoid. It's in everything we eat.
And now we have reached the end of today's stories. Thank you for watching and see you next time.